Hey everyone, welcome to Delville Podcast, episode 150. We are officially back in the original crew. So, tonight we're going to be talking about scores, movie soundtracks, what we love, what we enjoy, what we miss about them, and compare them to stuff that's coming out today.
So basically, the Fab Four is back. Can I get to be the dead man in this time around? That would be Paul.
That's fine.
Who would you guys be?
I'm unfortunately drawing a blank on the reference, or it's just because I'm not awake enough yet.
Yeah, we
Guess I'll
worked today.
go.
I think you'd be John.
Do
So
I
it means
look
I'm
like a
George.
John?
It means
Yeah.
I'm George. Okay, I'm okay with it.
Colin's like, okay, I'll be Ringo.
Well, that's
Call
what he
me.
said a minute ago. I guess I'm Ringo.
Ah, okay. I've
Uh,
never heard the Beatles referred to as the Fab Four, but okay.
oh my God, you just made me feel really old, man.
You're welcome.
Um, hmm.
Wow. What can I say? My parents were more Chicago fans. I don't know what to tell you.
They call me Ringo because I wear so many rings on my fingers.
Everybody just close their
See?
ears.
Anyway, so Ryan was the one who brought this title to me because he was sitting at the supermarket and The Lion King, I can't wait, just can't wait to be king, came on. And he was like, this would be a good podcast episode for them to discuss about, how great it was that we used to get these great soundtracks and scores for movies, whether it be animated or regular, and how they don't compare to today, even though there are some great ones out there. So I figured, what better way to when we have everybody here, especially considering Colin's a musician and we all love music. I mean, that's one of the things that is universal among everyone. So, you know, Star Wars comes to mind, especially with the original trilogy and how impactful that soundtrack was.
Indiana Jones.
Hmm.
Well, see, that was an era when the scores were not just a background sound to amp up the excitement, the action, or the terror, like in a horror movie.
They were a
They
character.
were a character in the film, and they signaled what was going to come up next. You could always hear it in the tone. But for me, we got to separate musicals from scores, from movies that use uh,
Music of the day,
music of the
of the current
day.
times.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but going to the Star Wars thing, why I was saying that too is that like John Williams has a big hand in a lot of the soundtracks over
Yeah.
the last 4 decades, if not more. Um, Actually, I would probably say 6 decades almost.
Man.
Well, he wasn't alone. There were a lot of famous directors who did a lot of scores
Oh
back in
yeah.
the day, and they were generational. So you would, and then even now they're generational. When you introduce new kids to the of music they haven't heard before, some of them are like, "Oh wow, they've discovered something new," and they want to find out everything they can about it. Some of them, it's just not their forte.
Hmm.
I just found out there were two tracks from heavy metal that were one was pulled because of a contractual agreement, with it. The other was just they cut the whole sequence that was the music for. And then there were when it finally got re-released, they had to replace two songs because the bands would not release them to be used on the new 4K version. They were like, nope, you pay us or no. And they were like, well, we can't. And so the nope. So I didn't even realize it. I need to go back and try to dig mine out and look at it and see if I remember which song is missing.
What songs are missing off that one?
Yeah. One of them I believe is Blue Oyster Cult, and I can't remember who the other one is.
Do you know what segment was cut?
Yes, it was Evolution. Okay, so remember when Hanover, he's burning into the atmosphere and his hand is holding onto the Lochnar, and you just see that hand?
Hmm.
Well, he plunges into a primordial planet of ooze, right? And the Lochnar floats to the bottom, keeps coming back up, and then you see evolution where dinosaurs and then man and all these other things, all the way up to the point of the war where the B-52 bomber starts. So originally there was a more connective thread throughout the movie, and that was cut apart before the first theatrical release, which is I understand why, but um the there was a big scene with the daughter in a carousel, you know. He brought the Lochnar home, but it wasn't part of the present. It was like still in that thing. He didn't get killed till later from it. And he took her and was showing her things that he had seen in deep space. And he goes, he tells his daughter, I want you to focus in on yourself and I want you to look. And all of a sudden she manifests this beautiful carousel, and each one of the animals and the things on the ride were going to be what led us into the episodes.
Hmm.
And she would see all of a sudden see herself in it, and it was tying you back to the fact that she would eventually become Tarna.
Yeah.
It was a time twisting thing to it, which they broke that up and made her just the next generation. And yeah, it was amazing to me that John Candy was not supposed to do the voice of Den. He just was friends with some of the guys in the cast, and they talked him into come over and watching them, do the stuff, and he just started doing some of the voices. You know, he created the robot, the sex robot that from the alien ship, where they're smuggling Nyborg. But yeah, it's just amazing to me to see how some of these movies that we cherish and how the music and everything modified and changed throughout its life cycle before it became what we know.
Hmm.
And it makes me wonder what could have been, if we'd gotten some of these things the way they were originally intended.
Well, in the case that we supposedly got one that, as it was originally intended, I didn't particularly care for was Donnie Darko. Whenever they released the director's cut of it, the
Oh
director
yeah,
completely changed the
yeah.
opening song from what Killing Moon to some other thing, and it completely changed the vibe, the sense of like the opening of that movie. Completely changed, like altered it in a way I was not expecting the first time I ever sat down. Like, because I was just excited. I was like, oh, hey, the director's cut. Usually director's cuts are really cool. I hadn't really looked into the fact that he had made some, and there's, I think, one other song that he changed in the movie. I want to say it's during the dance scene that they altered it, but like specifically that opening song
There's been quite a few movies that have
in
had
my mind.
that kind of thing where the director's cut usually changes the score or music that's played.
If it does, I haven't ever noticed it as bad as I noticed in Darko. Like, but I think it's because it's, scores are one thing, and sometimes they can be a little harder to pick up on. Whereas something
Oh,
that's as open as a soundtrack, right? Like a song that you can hear the lyrics and everything for, just immediately. What the heck is?
Legend is the other one. Legend has a different score for the director's cut versus the actual theatrical.
Did it?
Yeah.
Did they cut Yes out?
I think they took out, I think all the, well, no, they kept that one, but they changed like the music that's played when time's frozen and she's
Oh
going
yeah,
through,
and going through
that's
the
different.
okay.
Like
Yeah.
certain elements are different. So it gives it a more almost a magical feel versus like the fairy tale kind of feel that you got from watching it originally. It changes that. And I remember because I remember we used to watch the theatrical all the time, and then
All
I
the time,
watched
yeah.
the director's cut with Anna, and I was like, man, the music's off. I'm like, what's going on? This makes me like completely feel like I'm watching some kind of different movie or something's wrong. I feel sick.
Well, and yeah, and that goes back to okay, there are certain movies that the soundtrack becomes so synonymous with it, you can't separate it in your mind. I cannot separate Highlander from Queen. I'm sorry. What was in that Labyrinth? with the David
Yeah,
Bowie
Bowie.
music.
Yeah.
There's like you said, a Legend, and there's another one too that um
Well, but think of this like this. And just to bring Colin in on this, one of his favorite composers is Danny Elfman
Elfman, yeah.
and Batman.
Well, I love the Danny Elfman Batman stuff, but
Yeah.
I've come to learn things about him that I'm not a fan of. So,
Mhm.
Well,
but
I
there's
tried to
Query that I do really dig.
well, I love the stuff he did for all of the Tim Burton stuff.
Well,
You know,
yeah, but
Yeah.
the Nightmare Before Christmas that he wrote all of that. And though that music for that, but that's a musical again. That goes away
Mhm.
from, that goes to a whole other category.
Well, it's still film cinematography music, whether it be a musical, a score, or a full-on soundtrack. Because the one thing I liked about Motu, and I can't get too deep into it, but that soundtrack is great. Um, it gives that Flash Gordon feel. There is one of the Queen songs that it was from that, and
Uh,
it's great.
ah, it's not Flash, is it?
No, no,
Flash,
no,
ah.
no. But it sometimes you get really good soundtracks for stuff, and it sticks with you. Even like Dread had a really good soundtrack. It just felt well with the movie, and it becomes that second character.
Well, another thing is like Godzilla. There are
Mhm.
music scores that like you hear it, you know exactly what it is. You can tell the subtle differences that they change for each movie.
yep.
Of the Frankenstein music, the Dracula music from the original Universal Studio. Those are iconic. I mean, you can just go through the list. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Of course, they used I forget what was the person who composed that. They used classical music for that, and but it still stands out when I hear those. If I'm listening to them and just the music, I actually picture 2001 Space Odyssey scenes in my head. Um,
Well, you had to because Kubrick wanted to have that whole thing when you're in space, you can't hear anything. So you had to fill the void with something. So having classical music playing just to kind of represent that.
One of my
yeah,
favorite soundtracks slash musical scores is the soundtrack for Akira.
Yes.
yes, yes.
That that is, in itself is its own character, its own living part of the whole feature, start to finish. I can listen to that all day long.
That bell, that ting, man,
Yes,
yeah, gosh.
Well, that and then, like the wing was it Winds Over Tokyo when it's that just that brief moment where Tetsuro's talking to his girlfriend and sitting Kaori like right outside the school and you just the music and it just kind of just fills the void of like this city that's living but like the characters are not existing within it. They are but they're not.
So how much like I'm just kind of chewing over in my head about this, but I wonder how much of the reason why I'm trying to think about for my own self. I think some of the reason why some themes like soundtracks and themes don't stick in my brain as well. Like thinking of Cape stuff, right? I think of the Avengers theme, and I know it's there, and whenever someone plays it, I recognize it. But like in the midst of the movie, I don't always really. It doesn't stick. It doesn't have a stickiness in my mind the way that something like the Batman score or like Spider-Man
Yeah,
does,
Spider-Man,
right?
Raimi.
And
Or
and
Jurassic Park, man.
yeah, but so in my mind, I feel like for some of these movies, and maybe it's just me thinking on the way that opening credits used to be, right? Like the way so many movies do it these days is like the cold open directly into the movie. You don't have these big elaborate. opening credit sequences where you're sitting there with the music and just having a bunch of images and things going across the screen. So you're kind of absorbing more of the theme of the movie. You're getting a lot more of that musical hit up front, and then that kind of almost primes you in a way for the rest of the movie to be more like aware of whenever you hear those beats right now, like okay, whenever now I know the RoboCop theme, so whenever I start hearing this and RoboCop shows up, it's like it's primed in my brain that there's the music, there's the stinger, there's this thing, and it's more prominent in my head. And I wonder how much of that is just it's become a function of the way that we do movies these days, right? It's not that necessarily the soundtrack or the themes aren't as punchy or as powerful, but just the way that we directly interact with the film and the way that the film comes at us initially doesn't give it that kind of stickiness to it. Instead, we're immediately thrust into the characters, the events, some sequence, something that now we're primed more into the story, and the music is still way off in the background, and it never really gets that chance to come to the foreground and sit with us long enough to really make that kind of deep impression, right?
I, for me, I think some of it is where you are, who you're with, what you're doing, that helps set it in your mind. You know, because think about Psycho. We all know what the music for that is. John Carpenter movies. Each movie has its soundtrack that is unique to it. You can tell it's a John Carpenter right off just by listening to it. But it kind of acts as your tour guide through the film. Halloween. The
Yeah, but Halloween, you have the entire opening bit of just slowly zooming in on that jack-o'-lantern while you're just sitting there with the
listening
Yeah.
to
music.
music.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like
But
how
suspense
if you were
building.
to take certain movies these days and take because all of that musical side of it now is at the end, right? At the end is when we get
Yeah.
the
The
big
yeah.
elaborate cool little moment and we have like a neat little song or something that they develop for the movie there. I wonder if, and we can't go back and reverse time and re-engineer these movies. But I wonder how much of the music might stick with us more if they still like opened up and let us kind of sit in the music a little bit more with it. So things like that would be, I mean, even like with the thing, right? The thing, yeah, it doesn't have like necessarily a big like a still shot of that opening sequence, but it's the helicopter just flying over, snow and mountains and everything. So you're not really having to engage heavily with something that's going on. You just got like the music there that you're able to dwell in while you're looking at these cool vistas and things over it. Like, I don't know. That's just kind of where my head is
so I
at
wonder
with it.
if part of it has to do with the changing of copyright music. You think of like YouTube, it's really hard to use any music unless you've made it yourself, what is pre-approved or anything like that for whatever you're making, like video wise for
Yeah,
background audience, ambiance and whatever. But so because we do see movies now where it may be selective what songs are available in it, and maybe it's harkening back to nostalgia with 80s and 70s music, 90s, depending on the aesthetic of the film. But we don't have a whole lot of music that's being made now for a movie. I mean, like we used to in the 80s, you know. I feel like John Wick, that that whole those four movies, are great and they have amazing soundtracks and it fits the aesthetic. And you hear it, you're instantly in it, and you know what it is. But there's some movies that come out that don't have that same kind of feel. And then you go back to like The Crow.
yes.
Both the score and the music sets that tone.
Hmm.
You hear one of those songs, you're instantly brought back in your mind to whatever scene was playing because we watched those movies and they left such an impact with you. Same thing with Highlander. And it's funny because like there would be songs that weren't even in the movie. I mean, think of Back to the Future. There's a couple songs on that album that weren't even in the movie. And or they were brief things that were played like on the radio.
Yeah, on the radio, the background music,
Yeah.
but they were still there to play be the music,
Music,
but it
right?
was used differently than just a background score or music.
Same thing with Twister. It had a beautiful musical score, and the Van Halen stuff was a nice touch to it, a nice way to round it out.
Hmm.
Because again, it goes back to what David said. The beginning, when they had everything just starting up and they were leading into the first shots of the movie, you had that long, drawn out, you know, multi string, basically like a string quartet. It was just rocking back and forth, getting you prepped to get into the movie. And when it transitioned into the first scenes of it, where the tornado coming, it took Joe's dad. By the time you hit that thing, you knew something was coming right away.
Um, I think some of it goes back to when there were back in the day before a movie started, it was like a major event. They would have like this big screen up, and then they would play the music, the soundtrack, the main theme. I think of Ice Station Zebra. Um, what were some other movies? Guns of Navarone. There were several that, and they called them intermission. They would do it at the
Yes.
beginning, and it was the prelude,
Hmm.
and it was played while you sat down, and it built up this, excitement for the film because the way the music was designed. And then when they would break because the movie is a little bit longer than what they were used to, you'd get an intermission. Now at drive-ins, you got their advertisement. You get the do, come to the snack bar and all that stuff. In theaters, you didn't get that. You got originally when I was a kid, you went in and it would still keep playing the music from the movie. So you never got out of the movie. You would go get your drink or whatever. The minute you walk back in, you're hearing the movie again. You sit down and you're right back where you need to be when the screen starts playing again. And I think that's what y'all guys are talking about, that we used to use um, music like that to guide you and to set you up for what you're going to be watching. They made these movies spectacles.
Hmm.
And
Well, now the spectacle moment is the CG, right? It's the special effects.
I can't
Now
stand
we
it.
can now we can do cool big explosions and
Explosions.
send you
Yeah.
off into space and it looks real and all the rest of that. So I mean, maybe it's just it is something along that. It's a function of budget. Maybe we aren't producing as much quality orchestrals for our movies because so much more of it's being dumped into special effects and stuff like that, right?
Well,
So it's become less of a priority.
it's actually getting cheaper to do these special effects now than anything else. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but the
really
focus isn't there in it, right? Like
no,
where are you paying attention to?
Hmm.
most of the money is going into the actors. When an
Yeah.
actor gets paid $20 million right off the spot, some are making 50 million
Yeah,
before you
well,
step on the stage. That's your budget.
right, but sorry. But budget aside, right? Like where's the focus when it comes to what you're needing to put into your movie it's become so much more visual because of what we can do now
Yeah.
with the visual medium, right?
Well, how do you
Like
explain
before it was like sped up, cowboys on horseback chasing Indians, so you had to have some fun music to put over it while they were running around and the guns were going off.
Yeah, it was usually a military style march kind of music, that action thing, that was the leftover from the Westerns. Excuse me. But Lord of the Rings, we had The Hobbit, we had man, Harry Potter. The
Yes.
music, that movie would not be the same without the music that was
I
there.
wonder
Right.
But
Absolutely.
those are also kind of on the edge of where I would say like soundtracks started to fade in my head, right? Like
Right.
those
Where
like I
social
like
media
yeah, those
started
still
becoming
those
influential.
de yeah,
Yeah.
like those definitely still stand out, but I wonder how much of that is still just a function of, there was still this like prime, and also those are, we're back to John Williams, right? I mean, you're still looking at these people who are almost of the old guard, and so they kind of, I mean, Peter Jackson's been making movies forever since before that, so it might just be a function of still that mindset of, hey, the soundtrack needs to be a
But
big
I
part, a big character in what's going on here.
but the director drives that. I mean, like
Sure, yeah.
Guillermo del Toro, right? His music is what sets the atmosphere for his movies. the visuals and the music, and everything else is just the icing on that cake. Um,
Well, think about
they
I was gonna say, think about like Tron, Legacy, and Ares. Both had really good soundtracks. And at
Yes,
least, you had two groups of musicians, right, who did both those soundtracks that were definitely to the point. Like you had Daft Punk and you had Trent Reznor for Ares, and they just fit the mood. Now they added in Ares, they actually added more real world music into it,
music in
but
it. Yeah.
most of that soundtrack was his. The
But
actual,
also think about it though. These are two different distinct type of musicians, right? That would
hmm
did these soundtracks. Yet they knew enough to add those links and heritage all the way back to the original,
hmm
to Legacy, and to Ares. They sound like a natural progression of each movie, each soundtrack. So you could find that lineage all the way back. Sometimes you get a sequel and it comes up with a whole soundtrack, and you're like, okay, where in the hell did that come from?
hmm
You know, I think back to like all these, like you again, Star Wars, Star Trek. Their music was their brand. You knew when you heard that music what it was about. When you hear a rock score, you don't know if it's just no, it's there for the preview. It's actually in the film because a lot of time back in the day, like with the Batman movies, they'd use different scores for the commercials than what you got in the film.
Yeah.
Um, so
I mean, think about, like, I was trying to think of some of the recent movies we've watched, and just thinking of the soundtrack. Like, we both really enjoyed Running Man, but it's like
oh yeah,
I can't think of any music from that I really really enjoyed because it was just the story. That was what it complemented the movie, the music wise, but it wasn't something that left a memory in my head. And I feel the same way for Predator Badlands. Yeah, and there was
yeah,
nothing there to like you think of Aliens, you think of Predator, it has that memorable score that kind of went through with everything, even with the first movie and the second movie, you really felt it and it became synonymous like with RoboCop and all these other movies. But like this one just didn't have something that kind of helped you elevate your enthusiastic, like I don't know, I'm trying to think of the word for this, but like when you're watching it, usually the music helps boost the mood, the ambiance and everything else in the film. Like we've always said it's like a second character. But for these movies, those weren't the driving factors.
no, they were they most of those two movies relied on just the natural sounds within the film.
hmm
You didn't get the real intense music until the real heavy action occurred, or there was something gonna happen, and they were just kind of setting your, like go back to Jaws,
Yeah.
Spielberg using and who was the director? I mean, who did the song for that? I can't remember. Um, him using just what was it, 4 notes or 8 notes to add, and how he played it either added intensity or calmed down
John
the,
Williams again was
yeah, John
Jaws.
Williams. That's knowing how to use just basic sounds and music. But think about how many songs do you remember from old TV shows?
I know. I remember a lot of them from
A
Miami
lot of
Vice.
them. Well, I don't mean like that. I
Yeah,
mean
but
like
yeah.
the opening, Battlestar Galactica. Everybody knows what that is.
But
Okay.
we're back to my argument about those were credits, right? You had to have your opening, you had to have your stinger, you had to let
Right.
people know it was on.
But if you're
So like it
advertising for a
served a very specific
series,
function.
yes, that's what I was going for. It helps your audience know exactly what they're gonna be in for and what to expect. All Mission Impossible, every all these movies, especially the movies that are made based on old show, they don't always just create a new soundtrack. They interlace the original for that nostalgic in throughout it that makes those older listeners, the people who grew up watching it, feel like they're back at that age when they first watched it as a kid. So music is part of the emotional aspect of filmmaking.
Well, and then think about like the transition from movie to animated series. So like Batman borrowed heavily from the
From
original
Jeff.
89 soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it became its own identity because it, went for so long but it gave a direction for the composers for that series to kind of understand what the theme and the structure should be for music for this cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tim had a lot to do with that. He was really one who pushed for the music to come from the first Batman movie, that first original. Um, oh, and I had another one I was going to bring up. Superman. Who cannot sit down and be somewhere and start hearing that da-da-da-da, that beginning song, and
Yeah.
you feel it in your spine coming up, and as it gets louder and it gets more, you are drawn right back to where you were and as a kid when you saw that. And man, I get giddy when I listen to that song and when it comes on, because it's just like drags me kicking and screaming back to a period in life where life was, anything was possible, you know. Um, and every movie since has had a little bit of that in it, and
Yep.
you recognize it. Even the cartoon, even though that cartoon had a newer version of it, it was still there, that bass sound. Um,
Transformers animated, 89 movie,
yep.
that whole entire soundtrack. But you look at the Michael Bay stuff, there isn't any music in that other than Linkin Park. For That
Yeah.
was it. It's like, okay, but I can listen to Linkin Park anytime and not have to think about that awful Michael
You
Bay
were
movies.
now that you said that, okay. Remember when that soundtrack came out? When that movie came out, we loved all the music from it, and
Oh,
I
still
bought that
do.
soundtrack.
Yes.
Um, and people hated that guy who was saying, "You got the touch." They made fun of him.
Stan
Stan
Bush.
And
Bush.
yeah, and now he is classic and everybody loves that song. You
Yeah.
know,
He's a really nice guy.
yes,
Oh,
I know. Yeah.
with
And
everything
he's
I've read
done
about
some
him.
other soundtracks too. I just found that out recently. Um, but come on, I don't want to dominate this conversation. Y'all speak up.
Well, I was going to mention the Superman thing right before you did, because even Zack Snyder used some of it
Yep.
Hmm.
when Cal first came back after being resurrected. So
Well, and then like you can tell a director by the music they have produced for their films. Like Luc Besson, The Fifth Element, great soundtrack. John Carpenter, anything he touches is just a fantastic gold.
yeah,
Especially if he's the one, because he always usually would either make his own music or guide the music that was there to fit whatever the theme was. Because there
yeah.
were a few that he didn't do the soundtracks for. Um,
But he had his own studio with all the analog synths and everything, and he would just sit there and just tinker and just go.
I can I'm very bad on names. Who did the Star Trek, the first movie,
the motion picture,
the motion picture?
wasn't that John Williams? Or hold on, I'm gonna look it
I
up
don't
right
know
now.
if it was Williams or Horner, or I know Horner borrows a lot from Williams.
I don't even remember.
I'm looking it up right now. So
Hans Zimmer did Lion King, Dune, Interstellar. I love Morricone. God, all his Western movies. The guy who did Alfred
And
Hitchcock.
Enrico Marconi.
Yeah,
Jer
yeah.
Jerry
He
Goldsmith.
had a
Goldsmith.
complete quick fact about him. He had a full separate soundtrack for The Exorcist 2,
Yes.
and they
Yeah.
pulled it. And I last year I found the soundtrack. I found the whole thing. And it is amazing sounding. And it was disappointing that they didn't use it as opposed to what they put in there. Because I have this huge archived collection of exorcism materials, and that was one of the ones that I spent a long time trying to find the thing on it. And
When you, I just see you going in like Father Guido Sarducci. You got your big head, your boombox. You set it over. You press the button. That music starts playing. You lay out all your stuff like a James Bond villain, and
well,
then you start.
Actually, it's on two hard drives. I got 1.5 terabytes of stuff. So,
Really?
mhm. Movies, anime, music, just tons of stuff related to it.
What do you think about the new Exorcist? It's gonna be a movie, yeah.
Yeah, with ScarJo in it, I believe it is.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson.
I'm liking what I'm seeing. I mean, they when they did the TV series, you know, and that's
TV
another great
series was
soundtrack.
pretty good.
The TV series was really good, and the twist at the end of season one was awesome.
So did you
But
prefer that to or Hannibal?
probably probably The Exorcist. Hannibal was good,
It
but
lost me after a while.
yeah, it kind of they really. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of fertile ground for that, and that's a whole different discussion. But
Yeah.
you got to be able to really work with that character to get it right. Whereas The Exorcist, you have a lot more meandering room.
Well, and it really should be about the Exorcist, the man, and then,
Yeah,
you're going to follow the original book and the original movie, the young priest who's questioning everything that is he's learning how
right.
and going to be. Yeah,
And we had that discussion before where
yeah,
they had the two prequel movies where it was one movie made into two movies and they both
yeah.
had the same general premise and stuff. But no, I mean it's like when you think about The Exorcist, you hear the words tubular bells. Everybody instantly
That
knows
was, yeah.
what that is. Okay.
Reagan's song from the
Yeah.
original movie, that soundtrack, when that played on the friggin' radio, that would scare me the hell out of a room. Because
Yeah.
that at first it would be okay, I can deal with that, and then it starts hitting you, and you start remembering, and it starts playing in the back of your head. You're like, I need to be where people are.
Well,
Yeah.
that's John Carpenter with Halloween. That whole
Yes.
entire soundtrack has it. Like Amber could not listen to that just the piano notes when Colin would call and be like, messing with the piano, doing the main theme for Halloween. Same thing with Tales from the Dark Side. She could
Oh
not
no, no.
stand that opening. But I
Well, no,
what?
and in Tales of the Dark Side,
Yeah,
that would she would be asleep, and I'd think,
but
okay,
she'd
she's
hear it.
asleep, and I get to wake. She'd hear it and wake up, and she would be screaming from the other side of the apartment,
Yeah,
"Turn it off! Turn it off!" And Twilight Zone, she did not like Twilight
well,
Zone.
his own either. Yeah.
Now, you know what's
Uh,
funny is her and Brock hate Twilight Zone, and they hate Perry Mason. And
Oh my gosh, come on.
I'm like, I love that music.
Um, but we did bring up Bond a little bit, but I was like, there's two notable composers here, Norman,
Mhm.
and he who worked on like the first James Bond for Doctor No, the first
okay.
film, and then John Barry. He was notable for Goldfinger, Russia for
Goldfinger,
Love, and
yeah.
Her Majesty's Secret Services. But then there was quite a few others. You had David Arnold, who did a lot of the Craig movies. Thomas Newman did Skyfall and Spectre. Hans Zimmer did No Time to Die. George Martin for Live and Let Die.
Of
Yeah.
And
course, because it was full of
Now,
Wings music. Yeah.
mhm.
wasn't Live and Let Die? Wasn't that the first movie where they started introducing music artists as part of the soundtrack?
Kind of, yeah.
Because that was where
I think so.
McCartney started. But I'm
That
wondering if
McCartney
that was
started
the
doing it.
first movie they did that with,
Well,
because
before,
every
okay,
subsequent movie
there was
had a
before that,
popular.
there was Diamonds Are Forever, because that was when he came back after Lansby did On Her Majesty's
The Secret
Secret
Service.
Service.
Yep.
Right.
So each one had a special song written for the movie, except for Doctor No, because
Yeah.
it didn't really have a song for it. It just had the James Bond theme
Yeah.
and variations of it. And then the second one with Russia with Love, because Russia with Love was the theme song for that. And each one had a theme song for it until
Based off
towards
the title.
later off the
Yeah.
title. And then towards the end, they went more for the music and the impact and how it fit the movie rather than the title. Because I can think of a
Right.
few actors, I mean singers, who their name of their song did not fit the movie. I think the last one who really did was Skyfall, with
Was that Adele?
Adele.
I think
Yeah.
it was Adele. Yeah.
But the last one was Zimmer, which was the one where Craig's Bond dies, that relied heavily upon the music from on Her Majesty's Secret Service and that underlying theme of love and loss. And so there again, watching that movie on screen and hearing that all we have all the time in the world playing again just was like somebody punched me in the chest because I remember that ending from Her Majesty's Secret Service where Bond's one true love dies in his arms.
So, the but bringing this up though, the First Light James Bond game had
Oh,
amazing
oh
music.
yeah, that was so good, so
Yeah,
good.
and that's another point. The big musical scores that you could remember, you could dig into, have shifted
To
from
the
movies
to the
To video
games, the
games,
games.
yes.
Yep.
the renaissance of that is going to be video games, clearly,
Hmm.
because they're putting more and more money into the games, making them the old 70s, 80s
Yep.
spectaculars,
Yep.
you know,
I
show
mean,
stopping stuff.
games, it's so much easier to do it with, right? Because you are spending so much more time with the
On a
game
mhm.
in between story beats, right? Like if you're just wandering around doing something, right, you need something to be filling your ear about
Yeah,
it. And there's what Claire Obscura Expedition 33,
Oh yeah,
the
that
was it
soundtrack.
Flying Waters, I think is the one that just it was I that was the first game in a while that I was walking around and I realized it's like, man, I am locked in on whatever this music is. I need to go find the name of whatever this song is in this level, and I need to add it to like every playlist I can think of just so I can
I
run
still need
it.
to get it on
And
soundtrack. I need to get it on vinyl. I mean the that soundtrack. But yeah, I mean that's what's great because like video games definitely has that staying power of, and it's transcended from the beginning to now that you're going to get a good game with a good soundtrack most of the time, and they'll stick with you.
Well,
Um,
they should because for what you pay for the game is a lot more expensive than what you'd pay for going to a movie or even buying the movie.
well, and how
A
long you would
game
stay
is a
with the game
much,
too.
yes. So, and they also have more time because games aren't developed over a year or 2 years, and the problem with people who were composing for films, they could completely compose it based on the original shooting script. And halfway through the film, the whole movie changes. They can
yes,
make a new actor and they go to a whole new story. And what happens when that composer is not available to go back and redo it again? So then somebody has to come in, take what they liked from that music and do a new original score at the last minute.
And we were just watching something on that. Both me and you were talking about that like a couple months ago, where
Yep.
we found out that the soundtrack that we enjoy wasn't the original soundtrack for this movie, and I can't even remember what it is now. I should have wrote it down so we could have done that for this episode, but it I don't know. It's funny how music impacts our life as much as it does, but like for a film, for a medium like film, you know, not only get the visual aid, but you also get the audio aid, and the music just helps with keeping that adhesion in your brain, so like you can the liquidity of it to be able to remember it at any given time. Or maybe you forgot it, you hear the music, and then all this stuff starts flushing back into your brain about, hey, I remember this. I haven't seen this in a while. I need to go watch this, or I need to go play this because it just hasn't been there. But then you get the flood of memories of who you were around, your family, your friends, maybe someone you haven't seen in forever.
And those memories are caused by the endorphins that are released by that pleasurable moment,
Moment.
you know.
yeah.
Now, the two things I would like to us to kind of discuss is I want to do soundtracks where they're from musicals, but I wanted to bring up something real quick. Um, Today's music and back in the day, when you did a soundtrack, you only thought of an album, right? And they had no idea you could do a VHS release. So they were paying for a license to use it in a movie that might get re-released to theaters. Then came the age of VHS. Then they had to worry about licensing not only for the film to be theater and for television. but for when it was wanted to be released on VHS. Those are multiple licenses you have to pay for to the performers. And then we added DVD and we added everything else and we added 4K and all these things. There's so many licensing of it. That's why I think we're seeing some of this transition away from that because it's easy to license a new film. I mean, old music. Like if you look at oh, what the hell, Guardians of the Galaxy. It used really old
Um,
music, and so it was easy for them to license it for all the time ways they were going to release it. And now we have streaming. So that's another license. They don't bundle it like we used to, like they used to. Well, it was a license was a license. You had it for in perpetuity for your film. No, that's not the way it works anymore. And they've added time frames, 20 years. And then after 20 years, you got to renegotiate. So I can imagine it's a real mess, you know.
Probably, yeah.
So that sounded like a statement, but you're saying you wanted us to. So
I
what?
want y'all to talk about it. I said what I wanted to say. Now y'all run with it.
I feel like you covered just about all of it.
Y'all don't have any
Hey
other
guys,
perspective?
I want to discuss something really quick, but let me just go ahead and lay out literally everything about it, and then y'all just go ahead and take. No, it's kind of like what Colin said. It's like, yeah, it sounds pretty tough. But I've never really done a whole lot of research into like how all that goes and how they work residuals and all the rest of that goodness. But I mean, yeah, as we've I can definitely see how expanding not only to what you're talking about with all the physical media, but like streaming, right? I mean, it's not just like something in syndication that's going to fall in and out. If it's streaming, it's there until someone pulls this and says, "Hey, because of these rights, like we're gonna drag it down until we figured this out and put it back up." And I can only imagine not just with music, but every other component about the movie that someone can claim rights on gets
Right.
into the legal battles eventually with it, right? But
And then
They
there's
def
the flip
they
side of that where, you got people having restrictions because of like stuff like YouTube. If it's a licensing, you get a copyright strike or you get your audio muted or I don't know.
I would add the fact that like anime has a big problem with that. There's a lot of times that like when stuff doesn't come here, it's because there's some kind of licensing thing in Japan that was maybe because Macross was one. That was one of
Yeah,
the reasons why we couldn't get Macross here originally was because of the music was produced by one company, the animation was produced by another, part of the toys were produced by somebody else. All these different hands touched this one series, and outside of the fact that Harmony Gold bought the rights for distribution here, it was a logistic nightmare trying to get all the rights to everything for the Japanese side because when they got the animation here, they redid the dubbing, they did their own songs. The music is similar, but like the actual singing vocals are
yeah.
different. Minmay always sing the same song throughout the
there were
original
three
Macross
there were three songs in that 50 something episodes, and I was
series.
so tired of that song.
Even Lancer
so
had more songs.
My boyfriend is a pilot. No, sorry. Uh, she's
No, if
I get
you want
the
to talk
vibe.
about if you want to talk about rights and overseas stopping stuff, it has nothing to do with music. It denied me one of the great Smash Bros alternatives on the DS with Jump Ultimate Stars, man. I wanted to play. I had a buddy who was able to get me like a ROM of that game, and so I was eventually able to play it. But that is by far the best jump game they've ever done, ever, and it screwed me over because of all the stupid rights between everybody who had different hands and all the different anime uh, that were showing up in that game.
one of the things is that what David brought up is the fact that a TV show could go off the air because the fact that it had licensed music in it and there's some kind of legal dispute between the rights holder, they lose access. So think about Stranger Things. That was heavily influenced by a lot of 80s music. What if they lose that? Like their ability to do that, they're gonna have to pull the show.
but they have a way of working around it. Okay, this happened on Fall Guy, the TV show, right? So they had the right to the music, but not the performance. So they had sound-alikes do the music. Like if you walked into a bar or when they were on the radio, it wasn't the original performer playing the music. So they own that. So there are workarounds. Um, but modern day, we want to hear the actual singers. We want to hear their version of it, you know. So licensing gets to be a pain.
Well, because
It
when they
does.
released, because it's happened in video games, right? So the Turtles, when they re-released, so when Arcade One Up got the rights to release that first Turtles in time and the original Turtles arcade combo, they had to redo the original Turtles theme song that played at the beginning that would loop that we'd all hear when we went to Super Trek to play the game or wherever anybody who played it. And it's like it's so weird hearing that version of it instead of the original that we all grew up with. And I haven't even played to see if the Cowabunga collection has the original song or the new re-release that they did for Arcade One Up. So it's something I need to go back and look and see because we're so used to that. Because even like Turtles in Time has its own intro, but luckily that was the same thing. But this happens with localization for when they re-release anime too. Sometimes they can't get the rights to, or they've lost the original dub, so they redo it. Evangelion and a couple other series have lately had that happen. Um, but that doesn't relate to music, but it kind of relates to what we're talking about with sometimes a song or something may be pulled, so they may put something else in there. Now, I don't know. I can't think of any instance right now where that has happened with any of our movies. I know they've redone sound effects and things, but
Akira did the entire
oh, they
English
did.
dub.
Yeah,
Well,
when they re-released it.
when Pioneer
Yeah.
re-released it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, they did.
That's
Oh, and
something I
then
want to go back and do. Is I want to go back and compare the whole movie to the original one that everybody knows, and I
Hmm.
want to
well,
find out more.
and see, hold on that vein, there which versions? Because when stuff was bootlegged here and the colleges started producing it and they were doing some of their own backgrounds,
Yeah,
um, we would get a release of something and it sounded good and it was all we ever knew. Okay, and then the Japan would release it here with their version of a dub or their the original subtitles on it. And then you would get like when Disney bought all of Ghibli's studios and then did a big star. They added God, man, every time I try to do it, the names just go right out.
Well, Patrick Stewart,
Patrick Stewart, yeah.
is Lord
Um,
Yappa and all that stuff versus the
but
original.
and then Christian Bale was in Howl's Moving Castle and all of these other
Phil
people
Hartman.
and Phil Hartman. Oh yeah, for Kiki's Delivery, he played
Yeah,
the
but those weren't at least those weren't redubs. There were some that were. Um, so like when Mononoke came out and
okay.
all that stuff was original. Those were dubbed here, and they were only dubbed that language. But like
Yes,
um, the Lupin the Third movie, the uh, Nausicaa Valley of the Wind, when it was Warriors of the Wind, that had two different dubs.
yes.
So some of that stuff had either had dubs back in the day when they were released under one studio and then redone, but like that's happened with Dragon Ball. I mean, there is the Ocean dub, there is the Funimation dub, and I think there was so apparently from what I heard is that even though we only got up to the point where uh the Ginyu Force showed up originally, and then it kept looping back over to Raditz. They actually finished out the whole entire Dragon Ball Z series with the Ocean dub that we just never got here. And it wasn't until Funimation, Chris Sabat and all them came in and did all that stuff that we actually got it. But then they eventually redid the Saiyan saga and all that so it matched. But anyway, so it's just I'm curious what it's going to be like for our kids, me and David's, with movies now? Are they going to have that same magic we do with recalling music, or they just focus on certain aspects of the entertainment?
They're gonna focus on the moment stuff. Because if you go back, if you look at like what social media is doing right now, everything on there, everything that's voiceover is sped up. Everything that
It
happens,
does seem to be like bam, bam,
shorter
bam,
attention
bam.
span, cram everything in the shortest amount
But
of time.
there is an alternate to that. You know, there's the musical Odyssey, right? Which
Yeah,
my granddaughter is just loves it, and they're going to make a movie of that. Not the Nolan one that I'm going to take her to see, at the end of the month, but it's all based on this opera that this one guy scored himself, and it's wonderful. Um, and it's long. It's like 3 hours long, and he's trying to write it to become a Broadway play and all this other stuff. And if she can sit down and just listen to all of that, there's still hope that they're
yeah.
not all tied into things.
Well,
I mean, but it really comes down to finding that thing that they latch onto, right? Whereas when we were coming up, we were a little bit more starved for choices, right? And
True.
now because you can go find literally anything that you want just about out there somewhere, right?
yeah, because
Then you don't have to be stuck with this thing and learn to love it and learn the things that you love about it, and then therefore find the types of stuff that you latch onto, and then that kind of becomes the defining thing that you look for moving forward throughout the rest of your time engaging with entertainment, right? Now it's just like I'm just going to go look for the thing that I like and I always like, and if I don't find it, then screw it, I'm out. And so it really falls to us, right, as parents to be able to help to encourage the kids to step outside of those comfort boxes and sit down and pay attention to a thing long enough to learn how to like something about something that maybe they weren't expecting it, right? So it's just kind of a you know it's going to be a different way to go about it, but if you're mindful and intentional about it, right? That's what it always, I mean, that's what parenting comes down to. If you're mindful and intentional with your children, then you should be able to encourage them into discovering things they wouldn't otherwise know, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's a philosophy. The more things change, the more they stay the same. When I was a kid and the late 70s and 80s, when I was like a teenager, not a
When
little
dinosaurs
kid,
roamed the earth.
and black and everything was in black and white.
And everything
Yeah,
was
Even
like 10
reality,
miles
yeah,
away.
reality
and me and
was.
used to
It was like
Moses,
Pleasantville, right?
me and Moses used to go over to Genghis Khan's house and we'd play cards and drink and smoke all night long. But
So it
he was
was
a terrific dancer,
you.
terrible kisser.
Wait,
And
are
it
you the
was
but
one?
you who
Wait,
burned the
wait.
Library Alexander, huh, Dad? No.
yeah, that was like I tried to get rid of it. The Roman guards were coming in. And I was, oh shit, it's cops.
So
Um,
so is it you or Genghis Khan that makes up like 90% of everyone's
The
ancestry,
population.
right?
yeah, Genghis, man, he got around, dude. Let me tell you, and he could mix a mean mixed drink. Um, I'll pick that up later. Y'all made me laugh, and now I forgot what the hell I was going to say. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
That was
The
tactical.
yeah, the longer things are
Oh, the more
was it the
things
more the
change.
more things are
Yeah.
different, the
Now,
more they
when I
stay the
was
same.
younger, we thought disco was the future. It was all over our science fiction. And the dancing like in Buck Rogers was I was like, man, please tell me this is not the future. Aliens come pick me up. And I was young, and that's all gone. You know, we want this thing, but we also crave the familiar. So
Yes.
it kind of keeps us in a
Well,
stasis, not stasis, but we move gradually.
true.
Uh,
Sure.
But it is the one of those things where we are each generation deals with difficult times.
mhm.
We all have hardships, we all have unfamiliar territories, so we gravitate towards the familiar or things that remind us of a better time. But I wonder how that's going to change for them because we went through COVID, which the last time we had some kind of pandemic was like before any of us were born. So we don't have a frame of reference other than what was written and documented history. So, like, there's a generation of kids like my kid, and, most kids within the last 10 years went through a transition of being through homeschool, something that a lot of kids did. And I wonder how that's going to affect things. Like, not education wise, but as far as media time, the ability to have things that they want to gravitate to. Because like luckily I got Edward off of Roblox and he's playing Fortnite now, which is fine. I'm trying to branch him out into other things. But at
Like
least
games.
I can
I got my
control.
kid off of heroin and now he's on
Yeah,
cocaine,
yeah,
so
He's
we're
on
man,
making
yeah.
cocaine.
progress.
Right.
Methadone is working well.
Eventually,
Right,
you'll get
right.
him down to smoking, and then you can get him to gum, and then you can wean him
Yeah,
off.
yeah, maybe a fun
Yeah.
off of
There
it.
you
Yeah,
go.
he'll have the patch. By the time he's
Yeah, yeah.
18, he'll be on the clean and sober.
The
I want to
patch is
see
just
I want to see a
it's a
gang.
Robux, right?
Right,
It's just
right,
like a Robux card.
right.
I want to see somebody do a video of that, please.
Be hilarious.
Let's
Um,
animate that. That's awesome.
but I just wonder what it's going to be like because like it's cool seeing my niece and my nephew and my son and his friend gravitate to music we enjoy, but they've heard it through videos that people put up versus actually hearing it on the radio. Um, Even though, like, for him growing up, most of that stuff I would just listen to. So it could be part of it where, like, with you and to me, listening to the stuff from the 70s and early 80s that really resonate to a good time for us that I enjoy and love more than a lot of more modern music, even though there is stuff I enjoy now.
Okay, so let's just put some honesty out here. They listen to 60s, 50s, 60s, modern classic rock, all the way up punk, um, and everything, and a lot of movie soundtracks and
Oh yeah.
musicals and all this other stuff. But man, if I put on a country western song, this guy would
Get
practically
that
die
out of
on the
here.
back seat. He would be like, I'm
Yeah,
dying," and I'd
it's
be like,
horrible because all I could do was this or roll down the window because technically we'd always have the windows rolled down because it was too hot. So, and even when it was cold outside, Dad would roll down the windows and he would freeze us. We'd be popsicles back there, me and
"Oh, I
Ember.
love that cold air hitting me." Y'all okay back there? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It,
yeah.
Dad, this is why you should have brought your jacket. But Dad, it wasn't that cold until now because the wind velocity and everything is making it colder. Um, but yes, I hated country music. I still hate country music. Um,
And then your sister, I grew up listening to Tejano. I grew up in San Antonio. I found I liked it, I lived around it. It was part of my life. And then I would put that on, and Amber would just stare at me. And she would stare at me, and she would go, is this the last one?" And I go, "No, I want to hear one more," and I found a really good Tejano channel. And she go, Dad, you realize you're white." And I was like, "What?"
hey, music has no cultural boundaries.
No, it doesn't. No, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
but
She was little. I mean, and
I
she
know,
was
I know,
trying
I know, I
she
know,
was trying to aggravate me with it,
I
like to
know.
get me to turn it off. That made
Yeah.
me listen to it longer because I wanted
So,
to expose y'all to different things. How do you know what you like unless you haven't been exposed to things?
Hmm. But
How do you know you haven't been programmed
trying to
to
get them
like
off the
something?
screen that's like this on their face, like a face hugger. It's already
Now
wrapped
that
around
would
their
be a
neck.
piece of
well,
marketing.
well, I
That
mean
needs
it.
to be a video too. Somebody's on the table dying, and all of a sudden, poof, and a new iPhone pops out of their chest, and it scurries off, and
And
then
it finds their
the
kid and
power
just goes,
cord.
and then
Yeah.
they're, but there's
Face hugger
already,
iPhone holder.
right.
Yeah, but I
Uh,
mean it's but yeah, that's but I mean how much of that is our fault for letting our kids like we're on our screens and we're just letting our kids sit on their screens, right? And how much of that is on us for allowing it to get to that point? Like, I mean,
well,
it's not just the screen's fault, right? I
it
mean,
No,
may
it's
part of
not,
that
not.
is
no, it's not, but it may also be the fact that it's outside influences. You may have not allowed it. But when you let your kid be watched by somebody, oh, here, have this.
yeah,
And it's like,
sure.
get, I can't pull the reins back. I'm not saying for me, but I mean, like, there is moments that have happened with Edward, but
Whoa, Dragon. When I say whoa, I mean whoa. But
Sure. I mean, yeah, there's all kinds of like books and things of being discussions they're coming out about like yeah, how childhood play has changed and like the fundamental ways that have potentially impacted that from yeah screens to there's some people that argue it goes all the way back to us losing touch with our neighbors, and so whenever people don't trust each other they allow their children to be out less and play, so they don't children don't get that play time with other kids in the neighborhood kind of experience, and there's all
True.
kinds of fun stuff that goes into it,
Well,
right? But
that created independence. I was that
right.
generation. My dad, my
Yeah.
mom kicked us out of the house and said, "Don't come back till the sun went down." They didn't
That's
care
right.
they didn't know where we were. Hell, we didn't know where we were half the time. But I'm 5 miles from the house. I got to turn around and go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have MapQuest on our phones. Yeah,
That's
back
right.
then.
we did.
Free range children, man.
Yes, exactly.
But I
Absolutely.
mean, I know something that I feel like has worked for at least me and my kids is that I'm always very mindful of engaging with them with the stuff that they're into and just like asking them to explain it to me, right? And even just going as far to ask them like, well, like why, just why do you think you gravitated towards this? Or, what do you like about it? It's like my daughter, for instance, out of nowhere, I have no idea where this came from. She just all of a sudden was like, "Oh, hey, Dad, I found this band. I've been listening to them. They're called the Cranberries. Do you know them?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm very familiar with the Cranberries. Where on earth did you come across the Cranberries?" I'm like, "Have you heard I was like, "I'm assuming it's Zombie, right?" And she's like, "What Zombie?" I'm like, "It's only
Their number
arguably
most
the most
known.
famous
Yeah,
Cranberry song." And then she said, "Oh crap. You know what? We always have this problem with names, right? What is it? Oh God, it's another song they're famous for. It starts with an I.
Well, there was pull my
Uh,
finger, wasn't there?
no, 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 no. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts. I have to look this up now.
That's,
Um, sorry. Hold on.
sorry.
We're linger, not an I.
Oh
Linger.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
Linger.
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 It's
Yeah,
a linger, right?
That's
which
the
the
same
song,
song. That's the
not pull
song
my
I just
finger.
no. But
No.
every time
That's
I
the Weird
hear
Al
Yeah.
version, Dad, that you
no,
came
every
up with that
time
you
I
never did.
no, every time I hear that, that's what the words say. Have you ever heard the words wrong and you sing that song like that forever? And
Yes.
somebody said, she goes, "What did you just say?" And you say it and they go, "That's not the lyric." "No, it is." And then they show you and you're like, "Man, I've been singing that wrong for 20 years."
Any Beck song at the beginning?
Right. But yeah, man, it's just so funny because like I have no idea how she stumbled on that other than, I think she takes a little bit after me when it comes to music of sometimes I'll just let the Spotify or Once Upon a Time with iHeartRadio, right? It would just be like you set it on something, you put it on spin, and you're like, hey, like
Yep.
just feed me songs outside this playlist that are like this playlist, and you know a good chunk of them, I start to hear them like, no, this is garbage, and flip, move on to the next one. But every once in a while, it's like, oh, hey, this is actually a pretty neat sound. Let me go look into this band. Let me go look into more of their music. Let me see if there's more of a sound like this, right? It's like having that sense of discovery and that desire to experience more whenever you do discover something new and interesting and you get to really sink your teeth into it. But like I said, for me, what I feel like when it comes to not just my daughter but my son as well, right, is always making sure to, like I said earlier, being intentional and engaging with my kids and like asking them, talking to them, right, about these things that they like and kind of, and I think part of what helps is that little things like this where my daughter will bring up the cranberries. It's like I know who that is, so now I get to, I'm not the biggest cranberries fan, like I couldn't even name they're another one of the most powerful songs, or one of the most popular songs off the top of my head, but I'm at least familiar with them. I could be like, yeah, I used to hear them all the time about this, and now we have this like little touchstone moment that we can use. Or, I'll be like, I'm not familiar with this band or that band, like play some music for me. Or sometimes she's gotten to the point where she'll just come over and like, hey, Dad, listen to this, and I'll listen to it for a little bit, and then I'll give her feedback. I'll be like, this kind of sounds like anime opening, credits music or something like that, and then we'll get a chuckle out of it and move on. But it's always just being that open to having those experiences with your kids, engaging with your kids, being in the moment with your child, and getting to see like what they're interested in, what's driving them towards that, and then using that as a springboard to encourage them to be like, oh, hey, you really like you know the this sound, well, maybe you should
You
like,
listen
hey,
to this.
check out this band over here that, I'm familiar with, and maybe that'll encourage me to get online and be like, hey, let me look up some bands that are similar to that, see
Hmm.
if I know any, or maybe listen to some on my own, and then maybe I get to find something new. And now, me and my kid get to experience something new together in this discovery. It doesn't have to be this nostalgia thing that I run back to over and over again and be like, oh, hey, let's go, listen to this song that I've heard 30 million times. Like, no, let's go find something new. I want to experience something new. You want to experience something new. Let's get to experience something new together that's in this genre that we've both
Hmm.
found that we both enjoy. And through that, we get to build that little memory. But that takes us needing to be off of, our
This.
screens, our
Hmm.
kids being off of theirs. And
Well,
again, having
some of the
those,
time the phone, them listening to
yeah,
on the
yeah,
phone is how they discover new music.
sure,
Um,
yeah.
for me, both my grandkids, my kids introduced me to music I would never have listened to. Logan and Alice do it all the time. Hey, Papa, I think you'll like this song. Send it to me. I'll listen. Hey, what's the name of the band? They send me the band. They send me different tracks for them. Alice is always doing that. Um, and
Anytime
I
I come
love that
down, I do the same thing
at least, we're communicating. It may not be sitting down and talking, but we're communicating through a different
through
type of
music.
language, through
Hmm.
music.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I always listen to, like, I use Amazon Music for all my stuff, and it has this thing where you can build your own soundtrack, but then it also does a playlist where it's like some of your stuff with stuff related to it, or it's all just your likes. So it's nice because I can just put that on and it'll play things in different genres sometimes that I'm like, oh man, like Monday I was driving and all these songs that like from the 90s that represented all my friends were coming on. It's like, man, this is Josh, this is Richard, this is Jeff, this is I was like, oh cool, this is cool. I like this going into the work in the morning and having to listen to these musics and I hadn't heard in a long time, these songs and the verses, my 80s themed retro stuff or soundtracks or just stuff that I enjoy. But it's always good to have that stuff on because like then my wife gets here and my son gets here because sometimes we do get wrapped up in our own little world and it's not until we're driving together that they get to hear music because like growing up we used to have music on all the time. Dad would just put on a record or an album, a cassette, and that would be what it is. We wouldn't have the TV on. We'd be cleaning or whatever. And I try to make that happen, but it's so hard because Anna's got her own thing. She's doing class. She's, helping Debbie, doing stuff with the community. And then I'm recording or editing, which is fine. But and then Edward's off in his room playing with his friends. But then we have that moment where we're together and we have music or movies that we can do stuff together.
one of the
But
things that is sad is, well, I introduce them sometimes to, I'll hear them listening to something and I know its roots are to this classical song or this classical big band. And I'll go, hang on. And I'll mention it to them and if their friends are over there like, huh? And I'll go and find it on my radio. I mean, on my phone, and I'll play it for them, and they'll go, "Oh, it is. It sounds just like it." Uh, what was old is always going to become new again.
new again.
But one of the things that just the sheer volume of music and entertainment that has been lost to us, or has been shoved in a vault somewhere, or is part of a like when a big studio borrows money, they have to lock those films up because they're used as collateral. Um, just so many different things in music that I'll remember and I'll try to struggle to hear it, and you can't find it on on anything. Um, in the same way with certain movies, you just can't find them anymore. So there's just so much that is lost that we could be sharing with the future generations.
Where it's hard to access it. It's not that
Yeah,
it's lost. It's like it's locked behind copyright or it's locked
yeah,
behind
or
whatever. I mean,
paywalls and
paywall.
other things. Yeah.
It's lost media because it wasn't archived well. I mean, there's so many things that are there that prevent us from being able to do most of the stuff we enjoy. Like this past Saturday, we did a movie night and I showed a bunch of people Gunhead. That has a fantastic soundtrack. That is a standout character in that movie.
Brooklyn,
And
Brooklyn, right?
well, Brooklyn's the main character, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but they loved it, and it's great. Like when you can have a do something with your friends and show them something they've never seen, and then they actually enjoy it. Because it's like, you may like a bad movie, like Jeff loves, and I'm gonna say this again, he loves the Garbage Pail Kids movie, and it was horrible, and he made us rent that for him so he could watch it again, and yeah, no, I can't find enjoyment out of that. I'm sorry, brother. But you know, you don't ever want to have that experience of like, hey, I'm going to recommend this movie that we're going to sit here and watch for 2 hours and hope that it's going to be good, that they're going to enjoy it. But going back to movies and music, it's nice when you hear something new or something old that resonates with you, that sticks with you, because a lot of times there's just stuff out there that doesn't.
So before we end this, I know it's
Yeah,
getting
we're getting close.
close. Um, I really want to talk about musicals.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's classic musicals, and then there's the modern musical, and then it kind of died, and now it's coming back.
Thank God, no. Leave it in the grave.
Dude, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna tie you up to a
I'm
chair,
gonna come, I'm gonna conquer.
and I'm gonna make you watch 28 hours of all the worst musicals I can think of. I'm gonna do the whole
Starting with High School Musical 1 through 3.
Oh,
no,
no.
Can
no, see, I see that's torture. Vampires, zombies, High School Musical, you know.
Cannibal the musical.
I'm
No,
so
that
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 was
was that
that
was
was
I know, I
fun.
that
know,
was
I know.
funny.
Dr. Horrible sing along blog.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Well, I mean, the
Um,
best one,
It's
I'm
the
sorry,
Hammer.
is Little Shop of Horrors.
of course. Yes. The
Well, no, it's
now
the
now
second best. Rocky Horror.
Rock. Oh
Rocky
yeah.
Horror.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
give you
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Rocky Horror followed by Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes.
I can sit there and sing those music, and I have. I've walked through a store, a song pop in my head. I'm not thinking about what I'm singing, and people are going as I go through the aisle, and I'm like, oh, I should not have. I did that one. Touch it, touch it, touch it, touch me. Oh, just in my head. I didn't mean to be doing it. And this guy and his girlfriend walked by me snickering, and I was like, "Yeah, I shouldn't have done that in here, man." But I had just been listening it into the car, and I love it. I love Shock Treatment, the album from the sequel to Rocky Horror, and I play that all the time. But those are special. Those are special. Um, those are the late night, the midnight movie that
The acceptable ones.
yes.
So you're talking about the unacceptable musicals. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, put me on the spot, David. Why don't you? Um, I can't think of one unacceptable. Well, I mean, yes, I can, but I'm not going to bring them up on here because they were older films, and what was acceptable back then is not
Yeah, it's
acceptable
separate
now.
today.
Yeah.
And so those cannot be brought up, can't be mentioned. Better off if they're gone because they're from an ignorant age. Um, but I like the animated musicals. I like what Disney did for a period of time.
Yeah.
Um, and it gave me something to share with my kids, something in common. Some we would sing it, the music when I they'd want me to buy the soundtrack. It played in the vehicle when we were driving. Um, some music when we were like playing D&D or we are playing something else and I knew it would be a good atmospheric music or fun, put on something like that. We use a lot of soundtracks for that too. Um, but I have a real affinity for the old classics. Um, like Robin and the Seven Hoods, the Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. I love Mr. Booze. I sing that all the time. My granddaughter picked up on it. She walks around singing it. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. We're in public. You don't know what Mr. Booze is. And
Robin Hood Men in Tights.
no, that wasn't a musical, was it? Oh, it had a musical number in
We
it.
had a musical number in it.
Just like History of the World had musical numbers in it. But it wasn't. Well, I wouldn't call it
I
considered
know,
a
and it could musical.
musical.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
It was a send up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I really liked those. But I liked um, Music Man, Singing in the Rain. Um, you know.
I've always been a fan of the Marx Brothers.
Oh yeah, but those weren't really music, but they had some
No,
singing
they
in
were
it.
musical numbers all the way through. Every one of
Oh,
them, a
yeah,
minimum of three
sometimes.
per.
Her, yeah, I'd say that. Same way with Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis. Every movie
Yes.
that they had several songs in it. Um, there was another one I was going to bring up that I was a big fan of Gene Kelly. So any movie that he was in, you know, some American in Paris, those classic movies, um, very cultural, would helps educate people to see where we've come from and how far we've come. Um, but I would like to see some more musicals. And I don't mean musicals like what was the one with Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan
Oh,
McGregor.
Oh,
Moulin Rouge.
Les
Moulin
Miserables.
Rouge. No,
Moulin
no,
Rouge.
that now Les Miserables was more of a play, and that was written for that music. And then once they did it as a movie, we had big name actors singing it. That was really meant to be a musical. Um,
Moulin Rouge is the one
Moulin
you're talking about.
Rouge was,
Oh, that
yes,
okay, that's what I was thinking.
that
Yeah.
was, that was a musical, but it used all contemporary music. It's kind of like we talked the other day about
A Knight's Tale.
Knight's Tale,
Yeah.
and the music that it used.
Um, well, like I know that like my one of my favorite classical ones was always Oklahoma. I liked that movie as a kid and still do, but I haven't watched it in a long time. But I'm glad that we're kind of bringing up the whole Disney thing because that was a thing that defined our generation was when the Little Mermaid came out, Aladdin, and you know, because the difference with like Pixar, you never really had musicals. You had like an artist that played music throughout the whole thing. Randy Newman and Phil Collins and um, come on, because even like for him, because like Tarzan wasn't a musical, but it had a few moments where they were singing, but
Yeah.
most of that was
No,
Phil
no, no, no,
Collins.
no. That was it was really not a musical. Tarzan was a
No,
musical.
no,
None of the
I know.
characters ever sang. That's what a musical is. The characters sing
Sing
within
right,
the film.
exactly. That's where things started changing with certain movies like that. Um, but we had what Encanto and
Oh,
Frozen
Frozen, yeah.
and Moana that had stuff, and it seems like they're going to be doing that. They're going to be doing the same thing with the new live action, which looks decent, but I don't know why you need to make a live action of any of your Disney
S-
movies. We've
You
talked about
No,
don't.
this before.
You
and they
don't.
don't.
You
That's
don't.
money. That's a
Stop.
money grab.
Quit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Please, God, make it stop.
yeah, we
Make
already were talking
make
about that.
make new IPs.
The only
You
the only thing
know
I would
how to
the only
do
thing I want to
musicals.
see, yeah, the only part of that movie I want to see is the giant crab singing. That's the only part I loved about the original movie. That's the only thing I would like to see on the big screen, just to see a giant crab.
But it's not going
But
to be nearly as shiny, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
no,
no,
that's
it's
true.
not.
No, it won't be. Um,
And I like the fact that the same guy who sang that was the bird in Rio. He was the bad cockatoo, and he's going to be in a new series coming up where
it was one of the guys from Flight of the Conchords.
yes, he was,
Yeah.
and but this new one has got I'm trying to think. I think it's got what's his name? The guy who played Get Smart and played in Despicable Me.
Steve
Steve
Carell.
Carell.
Steve Carell, yeah, and I forget who the younger guy is, and then he plays a business tycoon with him, and they've been doing like little skits for the show. I don't know if it's gonna be a show, it's gonna be a TV series, so it might, and I think it might be gonna be on Apple.
But like here's something though too, right? Talking about Disney in their more recent musicals. Do they have the same magic and staying power for this generation versus what we got with Aladdin and all that stuff and Lion
They
King?
aren't
No.
doing any new they're not doing any new.
No,
They're
but we
just
we
doing.
had we had like I said, Encanto,
Oh no,
Frozen.
no, no! If they do those, they do work. and they do get found. I mean, look at the new one with the pop the girls, the
That
hunter.
it
The
that
It's
is, but that's
K-pop demon
Korean.
hunters.
That's
I know, no,
Korean,
but I'm just saying it's still a musical,
Crushing it.
and it is, and it is spawning a sequel. It's spawning a game, and it was not. And I'm going to tell you
but
what,
that
you may
wasn't my
think it was
question though, Dad. Hold
no.
on. I was asking about Disney currently versus Disney in the past. Does it have the same staying power for the kids? Like in 10 to 15 years, is Edward or Alice and them going to be wanting to go and they hear it and they're going to go have the same nostalgia that we did for I just want to be a king or I can show you the world.
Maybe.
No, and maybe because
I
look at
I
what's the one
mean
with
there
um
there are kids that grew up with the prequel Star Wars movies that prefer them as their main trilogy, right? It's like when that's your exposure as a kid, right? The I mean, when I first heard the songs in Moana, that was one of the first soundtracks in a while that I was like, you know what? I actually do kind of want
Oh
to
yeah,
go pick that up. So can I imagine one day at some point in the future, one of my kids just like humming along to You're Welcome or something else like that? It's possible. I mean, but again, it kind of comes back to that being awash with constant content, right? And how much
right.
that dilutes it out of our brain.
Yeah, there's a glut of everything now.
well,
Like you
remember
said earlier, you can find just about anything.
we were exposed to the same stuff, and we still remember those things that
But
meant something to us.
not at the level that kids are now because you have content creators making stuff which you didn't have in overabundance at all back in the 80s and 90s. As a free flowing that you could just get on there and watch it. We
Yeah.
didn't.
Whenever we get into things like this, I'm always reminded of that fun little saying of once you people that tell you that once you've hit rock bottom, the only direction you can go is up. They're
Uh,
lying to you. You can also go to the side. So it's
yeah,
kind of the same concept, right? It's like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, like yeah, we had a similar exposure, and we were here at this point, and it's not that it went up. We just kind of like shifted over here, and now, yeah, like we the little Venn diagram of different types of exposure that people have to different things. They're just further along inside of this little diagram over here. They haven't left the overall like
yeah, we're
experience. It's just a little
it's
bit different
Yeah,
in
they're in a
terms of
different
yeah,
area.
it's one giant back room that's just ever expanding, and
yeah,
the longer you're in it, the more weird it gets.
yeah.
There's some dark
Memories,
reaches of the internet that are really bad.
on memories and all that good stuff. That was actually a really good movie.
That was a good way to end it.
I'm done.
Put a bow in it, stamp it, send it out. Um, so anything you guys want to add at the end here for just
All right.
the new generation, what to expect, what to gravitate to wrap it up for them.
I mean, like maybe what I
Elements,
was trying.
elements.
Maybe what I was trying to express earlier, I think maybe I have a better word for it now, is that kids just need to not mindlessly consume, right? Like I think that's really at the heart of it is don't just like sit there and mindlessly consume stuff as it's fed to you. Like actually be cognizant, be
Yeah,
aware of
Yeah.
like, think to yourself, I like this thing. Why do I like this thing? And then once you understand why you like a thing, let me go find similar things to this thing. And as I find similar things to this thing that I like, maybe I'll find some other component to something else that I like also. And then that can help you branch out and experience out and like they're not gonna I'm under no impression that my kids are going to have similar experiences or find similar things in similar ways to me. They're going to be, trailblazing their own paths with all the new technology and new ways to engage with media and entertainment compared to what I've come up with. So I'm not expecting them to find it in the same avenues. All I ask of my kids is, yeah, don't just mindlessly go into these things. Like put your brain into it, figure out what it
Explore.
is about it that's drawing you in, and use that as, inspiration to go out and discover and find more, right? That's what we should be encouraging in our children is a desire to go and discover.
Hmm.
Explore responsibly.
Yes.
Yes, I'd add
Yes.
that.
There are certain
I
corners
agree
of
with
the
that.
internet you don't go to.
So
For certain.
I'll
My
let,
my thing would be, and I'll let you finish, Vince, is that don't close yourself off to new experiences. Try something. If you don't like it, move on. But learn and see, experience things, try different musics, try reading different books, try seeing different movies. You never know what you're going to like. And as you grow and get older, our likes change, so you might discover something. Kids who are like, I don't like reading. How do you know? You just haven't found the book series or
that's going to
something you
captivate
want
you.
to read that's going to captivate you.
How do you
Don't
know you
give
don't
up.
like country music? You just haven't found the right country
No,
music to listen
no,
to.
no. Two middle fingers up to that one. Double deuces.
Give them
I
Wolverine fingers.
no, yeah. But I will say this: in this ever-growing world that we're living in, with technology and AI pushing the algorithm, the big dive into what we're going into this future that is the unknown, that is that is going to push us into the whole thing of like Wally, where we're being force-fed slusho and content that the algorithm feels that we want. Find your own path, find your own thing that you enjoy, and maybe try to contribute a little bit to that ever-growing ethos of everything that we have created as humanity. Because it'll be taken away in a moment, and then we won't have a choice. Not to go down a deep, dark path of the Matrix, but we never know what our deep, dark overlords of the AI that is being birthed now will do to us.
Well, my arguments I've had with AI, I would assume it's not going to be all that dangerous.
Well,
Wait
oh
till
yeah, I
it
remember.
passes the Turing test. That's when
Right,
you gotta
right, right,
worry.
right. Yeah.
And
You
if
know.
this ever changing world in which we live in makes you give in and cry,
So live and let die.
And when Rachel comes knocking on your door and asks if she's human, you say yes.
go out the back door and run.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
Or you know what? If what's her name? Zool shows up on your front door and asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
And if she
And
asks if you're the keymaster, you say yes because you might save
no,
them all.
not no, 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 no. You know what? If she looks like Sigourney Weaver, oh, I am the key master. If she looks like Zool, he's next door.
There you
Or Raw from Stargate. Yeah, he's yeah, they're over there.
Now 7 of 9 though.
So you'd let her assimilate you?
I mean, is it really that bad being a
You're a
Borg?
married man. You better be careful. I'm I'm single. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, no,
You go,
no.
boy.
Oh,
You
I'm
just
sorry.
let's put your
You were talking over me. I said, would it really be that bad being a Borg? I don't know.
just put yourself out there, man.
Yeah.
Collective thoughts that you don't have yourself.
I mean,
That's already happening now.
isn't that what the algorithm is? Aren't we
Yeah, it
already kind of
is.
halfway
We're
there?
we're there now. We're gonna basically our phone's going to
What
assimilate
is,
into our brain with
before we
the
go, let's just go
Neuralink.
ahead and tackle what is consciousness?
I as we are.
That's a whole other podcast episode.
Yeah, I don't know we'll ever get to that one. It's fine.
Help me, Colin, from the walrus.
Cuckoo
I am.
chickadoo.
He is we, and we are all together.
Oh yeah, something like that. I gotta have the music playing, or I can't sing it.
We went full circle with the Beatles reference. All right, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Leave us a comment down below what your favorite soundtracks or scores or musicals are. We'd love to read it. And remember that you can find the podcast on Spotify now, and it is new episodes released every Wednesday. So until then, catch you later. Stay safe and watch out for the AI nightmares.